Okay, thank you for inviting me in your very interesting conference. I am Jean Carassus. I am a professor in engineer school in Paris, and I am a consultant. And I work also with the CIB. CIB is the International Council for Building Research, and I am a coordinator of task group dedicated to the implementation of energy efficient buildings policies in 5 continents. So we will speak of one continent this morning, Europe. My presentation deals with 4 points. What is an energy efficient buildings policy? The European Union policy. One example of the implementation of these European policies, and some links. It will be if you like to get in depth in different topics, I have some links to 5 European countries' policies aspects. So there are different ways to specify an energy efficient buildings policy. I suggest the following one. First, you get an objective within a defined period, very important, less 20% in existing stock, for instance, but by 2020 or 2015. That's very important that all objectives must be specified within a defined period. Instruments, I will discuss with you about the different instruments. We got a very interesting UNEP from United Nations typology. Concerned actors, don't forget that there are actors backing the policy, but there are a lot of actors which are opponents of the policy, or we are neutral, and this awareness about actors is very important for the efficiency of the policy. And of course, impact for energy consumption or CO2 emission, but also impact on economic aspects and social aspects. And cost effectiveness, because as you know, public money it must be very cost effective, especially today. And don't forget that it is not a technocratic objective. It is really linked to 2 planetary strategic challenges. You heard of climate change, of course, but the second one is as important than the first one. That is energy supply security. Don't forget that energy supply security is one of the 3 main causes of war, with the water supply and problem of borders. Iraq war is an energy supply security war. So energy efficient buildings policies get 3 aims. Energy consumption to be diminished, CO2 emissions to be diminished, and to increase the part of renewable energy. And it is something like the most program of this morning. You know? First, we got in Europe a continental level with international intercontinental negotiations. And we got the European Union policy with general objectives, with the directives, which give instruments framework. And then, or at the same time, country levels with objective national framework, and local authority, which is very important because the property and construction actors, as you know, most of the time are very local and regional, except some big international groups. But those international groups got a very tiny part of the market. So the partnership between local authorities and property and construction actors is essential for the efficiency of those policies. Well, on those 3 levels, if we try to summarize, we have 4 kinds of policy instruments. The first one is the one we think of it at the first, when we think of that. It is control and regulatory instrument. But don't forget that there is not only this kind of instrument, and this kind of instrument without the others are not so efficient. You know, even if you have regulations, those regulations obviously can be not implemented. So when we got two kinds: normative, like building codes, procurement regulations, and so on. As you know, everything will be on the website, so I don't get into detail because there are a lot of slides, and I like to be within the 20 minutes. And informative instruments, regulatory instruments, dealing with mandatory audits, with mandatory labeling or certification programs. The second very important instrument is fiscal instrument and incentives. And you've got a lot of them. Taxes, tax exemption, capital subsidies, grants, subsidies, loans. There are a lot. And they are very important. And most of the time, it is very important to mix the two of them, the number 1 and number 2. Number 3, it's very new. And it is not very developed for the moment. It deals with economic and market-based instrument. Energy performance contracting. There will be a presentation this afternoon by Adrien Bullier, an example of energy performance contracting in a French housing company. Energy efficient certificate schemes, Kyoto Protocol flexible mechanism in North countries or South countries. And number 4, which is very important and quite common, but not so efficient. It depends on the countries, on the region. That is support, information, and voluntary action. We need this. So most of the time, you got number 1, number 3, number 2, and number 4, excuse me. There are the 3 main kind of instruments, because the number 4, you got voluntary certification, public leadership programs, awareness raising, education, information campaigns, very important things. And number 3 is very new. It has to be developed, but the 3 others are more developed than the number 3. You got this in this UNEP. UNEP means United Nations Environmental Program, and they got a very interesting 4 years ago study dealing with assessment of policy instruments for reducing greenhouse gas emissions from buildings. And the cost effectiveness is different from one instrument to another. According to this UNEP report, high cost effectiveness examples are, you can look at them, appliance standards, energy efficient obligation and quotas, tax exemption, reductions, and so on. And you got a hierarchy with high, medium, medium, high, medium, and low. But, you know, it is one study, this UNEP. It is based on different surveys from more than 30 different countries from north and south. But actually, we don't forget that this cost effectiveness depends on your context and the compliance control of the implementation of instruments. So it is not the truth. It is just some ideas of cost effectiveness, but you have to check this in each context and each region.